Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today, we will look at an introduction to printing from within your application. In order to do any printing from your computer, one of the first things to establish is, are there any printers attached to the computer? And if they are, what are they called? Well, PowerBasic has some commands which make this job quite a bit easier. First of all, we want to get a list of what printers are actually attached to the computer. So let's establish a printer list. So we've created two local variables, one to hold the name of each of the printers and one to be used as a general variable to do a for next loop. Now PowerBasic does give you a few commands specific for printers, and one of these is printer count, which returns the number of printers defined in your system. Then all we have to do is to accumulate the names. So we are appending to our variable printer list using printer $, and telling we want the name rather than the number of the printer and which one we're after. So if there are 10 printers attached to your computer, this will run from 1 to 10, picking up the name of each printer as it goes. And we'll just put a carriage return line feed on the end of that, so it's easily displayable. So if we take our printer list and push it out towards the log, we get a list of what printers the Windows 10 computer considers to be attached. So on this computer there are a total of 5 configured printers. 1 for fax, 2 for Microsoft, 1 to print to PDF, 1 an XPS document writer, and 2 other logical printers which are a piece of software I have installed on this machine. There are no actual physical printers attached to this computer. So what we're going to do for today's exercise is we're going to print to PDF. Printing to PDF is quite useful because although many of your applications will no longer need to print to paper, there may be the need occasionally to print to a PDF file which can be held for archival purposes. So since we're going to print to PDF, we're going to use Microsoft's own inbuilt print to PDF logical printer. There are a whole series of commands in PowerBasic to allow you to print to printers, which all start with xprint. If we have a look at the help for xprint, naturally we're not going to go through all of these today, this is just an introduction to printing. But we are going to cover a few key elements. So the first thing to do is to tell your application which printer we're going to be talking to, using the xprint attach command. So in this case, we're going to tell it we're going to use the Microsoft print to PDF. We know that this particular printer is actually attached to the system, just in case we're printing to a physical printer, and for example the printer is actually turned off or not available, we'll want to test to see if there's an error status. Now the first thing we can try is to send a piece of text to our PDF printer. And once you've finished printing, you can effectively send it a close command to tell it you've finished with the printing. And that will create the PDF file. So if we try running this now, since we're printing to PDF, it will automatically pop up and ask for the name of a file. So we're going to call this one test PDF. And that's our file created. So if we have a look at the file itself, there's our test PDF. And if we double click on it to bring up our associated application, which happens to be Acrobat Reader, and there is our text appearing on the page. So what if we want to put a great deal more text than just a simple line? we're sending a long string of text here to the printer, just to see what it will do. So if we go back to our document, we'll just delete our file again, and we'll continue printing to that one file. There is the long line of text appearing on the page. Now it is longer than can actually be displayed on the paper, therefore it's just running off the side. Now obviously you don't want that to happen, you want it to wrap round. So how easily can we actually do that? Well, let's nip back to the code. Now to save us a little bit of time, what we'll do is we'll paste a bit of code in at the tail end of our program here, which will basically work out where the documents folder actually is on this machine using the environment dollar. It will then test to see if our file or test PDF exists, and it will execute the associated Windows process with that, which will save us jumping around to launch it every time. So let's see if we can actually wrap this text round. Now because the text we're printing can be of a different font size, a different font width, it would be quite difficult to actually work out in code where to actually do the word wrap. However, PowerBasic does provide you with a very useful command to actually word wrap your text. So before the longer line of text, we will turn on word wrap. And if we run this now, and there is our text word wrapped. The command has automatically worked out how much text can actually fit onto our page and wrapping the rest of the text round. So what else can we put on our page? Say for example we want to actually print a line onto the page. Well, we can quite easily use the xprint line command to tell it the coordinates. However, one of the things we're not quite sure about is how many coordinates can we actually fit onto the page. Well, xprint does provide you with information that will let us do that. So what we need to do first is, up at the top here, we're going to put a command in to work out how big our page actually is. So we'll put a couple of local variables in to work out the width and the height of the canvas that we can print to. And then we'll use the xprint getCanvas command to actually populate those variables. And we'll give it the width and the height. And then we'll just print that size out to our PDF just so we have a record of it. So if we try running that now, and there is our canvas size, 496 wide and 7116 high. So now we know the coordinates of our entire page, we can determine where to put things on the page. Now obviously when you're actually printing to a physical printer, it will depend very much on the paper that is actually selected for that printer. So if we have a look at the xprint command, and if we have a look at the xprint get paper statement, this allows us to figure out on the particular printer what are all the paper sizes supported by the attached printer. And using the xprint set paper statement, you can actually change the paper style for the host printer. So the advantage we have here is we're printing to PDF and we're just taking the defaults. So what can we do apart from putting text and lines onto the page? Can we do something a little more elaborate? There is an xprint pie command which you can use to put a pie chart onto the printer. So if you want to actually do any charting, the xprint command has some very nice inbuilt abilities to actually chart. So what we've put in here is we're using the xprint pie command to print 4 slices of a pie. For each slice of the pie, you're basically telling it the bounding box that we're going to be drawing onto. You're telling it where to start. This one is going to be 40% of the total pie. Its bounding colour of the slice is going to be light grey, and the colour is going to be blue. This one starts at 40% and goes up to 50%. This one starts at 50 and goes to 80, and this one goes from 80 right up to the 0 again. So this last one will be 20%. And you're setting the bounding colour to each of them to be light grey, and the fill colour to be red, blue, green and yellow. The final parameter is the fill. 0 is a solid fill. You can of course have hatch fills, as your printer may not support colour. But since we're printing to a PDF, colour is not a problem. So if we tried running that now, and there's our pie chart, quite happily sitting on the page. Now so far we haven't actually changed the font at all, but we can quite happily change our font. So after we've done the pie chart, what we'll do now is change the font. So we're going to use the font new command, and we'll need to store that value in a new variable. So font new, and we'll specify, say, Times New Roman for this one. And we're going for 16 point, standard styles, just very basic, and we'll put that to our new variable, font handle. And then we use another xprint command to set the font, using the variable we've just set up. Now we can set the position on the page to actually print at using set pause, and we'll set it to 300 by about 870, and this should be just slightly above the beginning of the pie chart. So if we tried that, we should see our text just above. Now we probably want to move it up very slightly, as it's a wee bit too close to the pie chart. But say for example we wanted to put some data onto the pie chart to illustrate what percentage of the pie that actually is. Now if we put black text onto this, it wouldn't look very good, so we're going to try and change our colour to white text. So let's move our text up just fractionally, and what we'll do now is we'll set the position that we want to write to, say 800 by about 1200, and we will change our colour to white, and we're going to say 40%. So if we try that now, not bad, that's fairly close. So our text has moved up fractionally, so it's not quite as close, and our 40% is quite happily appearing in the pie chart. So using these xprint commands, you can build up quite a sophisticated PDF file, just using the inbuilt Microsoft Print to PDF. Perhaps we actually want to put a picture onto our page as well. Basically render a bitmap. So we use a little routine we've used in previous videos, basically to take our bitmap file in as a binary and basically work out its width and height. Now for the render command I'm about to use, they have to be bitmaps. So if you've got JPEGs or PNG files, you may want to convert them inside your code prior to rendering. So we're going to use the xprint render command on the file we have just done. Now these files can be done from the resource file inside your application if your bitmaps are stored within the app itself, but in this case we're taking it straight from the folder in which our executable sits. And you merely have to tell it where on the page you want this to appear. So let's put this below our pie chart. We're defining the bounding box that is going to be where our bitmap is going to appear. So we're starting at 250 by 2800, and we want it to be for the width of the bitmap and the height of the bitmap. So we're putting it in full sized. And if we run that now, there is our bitmap, quite happily sitting on the page. Now this has been a very short introduction to actually printing to PDF files. Microsoft's print to PDF doesn't unfortunately give the ability to print directly to PDF without having to specify manually the name of the file and the folder into which the PDF is going to be created. However, there is other software in the market, some of which is freeware, some of which is purchasable, which you can actually use to automate it. Therefore, you can quite happily have some background process churning out PDF files completely unattended. However, that's it for today. Thank you for watching.